What does severe depression feel like? The world goes on around you. While you don't feel like moving. You still have a job. Obligations. School. But all you want to do is fall deeply asleep and never wake up. You hate yourself and assume everyone else does too. You have no motivation to do anything. The sadness sits on your back like a bag of rocks that you can't take off. A heavy ache on your shoulders like none other. When I had it, I felt nothing. Like, seriously nothing. And it was way worse than feeling the worst sadness one can feel. I woke up in the morning and had suicidal thoughts before I could even realize I was awake. Life was completely meaningless. It was. Edit 1. My first award ever. Thank you so much. Stranger's smiley face. Edit 2. A few people asked me how did I get better. So here it is. Among other things. I dropped out of college because I had started medical school only to make my parents feel proud of me. I told my parents about it when I was 16. I was very close to my mother especially, and since then. She stopped feeling anything good about me at all, and it made me feel awful. So, I studied really hard and went to medical school. Things didn't turn out well. I developed severe depression and had it for a year and a half, the time I was in college basically. My classes and exams were really hard. And since I don't have any passion for medicine, it was exhausting dealing with my studies. After a year and a half, I couldn't bear that any longer. I was miserable and my relationship with my mother was still. One day I woke up and thought that I'm gonna find happiness no matter how. I craved happiness so much. So I came back home and started studying again. I'm gonna return to college next year, I believe. Thinking of becoming an engineer. I must say that during the time I was in college I developed marijuana, alcohol and nicotine addiction. When I quit, I stopped doing everything. I believe being clean was really helpful to my mental health. Months later I was so much better that I even started taking care of my diet and doing exercises daily. I felt great. Unfortunately, I'm not doing it anymore. But I hope I'll return to that lifestyle soon. That's my story, I guess. It's possible to be cured from depression. It's hard, but it's possible. And everyone has their own path to walk. All I can say is therapy is a must. And sometimes, if we need it, we shouldn't be afraid of taking medicines. I never did, but I regret that. I chose to live in for a year and a half for no reason at all. Well, that's it. If you're reading this and you feel the same way I once felt, please, try and carry on another day. I know you won't regret. Don't lose hope. I really wish you get better soon. For me it's just emptiness. You wake up and you don't want to do anything. You can't get the motivation to get anything done and nothing sounds fun to you. When you do try to do something fun, it's hard to get engaged and it's not fun or interesting. It's exhausting to talk with friends but you still want and need their presence. Then all in between this is the guilt of not having done anything productive. It's hard to feel any sense of happiness and eventually you want to hurt yourself just to feel something. Just complete hopelessness that things can get better. I stopped thinking about the future or making any plans. I realized there was nothing I was looking forward to. Stopped playing video games. I slept for like 11 hours a day and laid around with the TV on without really watching it and my body hurt all the time. It's a disease and it's real. I honestly think chronic depression is one of those things that, if you haven't had it yourself, you can't fully understand it. I think the biggest thing is the complete lack of interest in anything. Again, I think it's hard to grasp if you've never done it. But imagine something in your past that you used to love. But at some point you just stopped liking tea and feeling that connection. Now apply that to literally everything. No television shows or movies to enjoy. Walks on the beach or just getting from one place to another. When you talk to others, there's no connection there. It's being that kind of bored where you just sit there frustrated with nothing to do. But that's your entire existence. That leads to a constant sense of loathing. You can only enjoy nothing for so long before you have no more positive emotions. It's inevitable. You wake up knowing that you are going to have no fun. No good moments. Nothing to interest you. Constant sadness and nothingness until you go to bed knowing that tomorrow is going to be exactly the same. Also, chronic depression manifests in ways that people don't expect. Often you want to spend all day in bed but don't actually sleep. Try to think about what staying in bed for more than 23 hours a day is like when you barely sleep for any of that. You care so little about anything that your actual physical body is the same. You can go without eating for days because your body just never gets hungry. You don't brush your hair and it ends up matted against your head, etc. I have this weird thing where when I'm really depressed, I can't even speak properly at all. It's like someone talks to me. I can physically hear what they're saying. I comprehend it, but on the other hand I don't. It's like there's some sort of wall there and I don't absorb anything that anyone's saying for even a second. Something as simple as someone saying hello. And because of that delay I can't even speak back. It doesn't feel like anything. That's what makes it so destructive. You're just there. Like completely indifferent. Overwhelmed with the inability to do anything. You don't want to sleep. But you sleep. Then when you wake up, you just want to stay in bed forever. You don't want to go to work. But you drag yourself there and just go through the motions. You don't want to do anything when you're on free time. So you just sit and mindlessly exist and spiral further into that murk. You can't muster up excitement or joy towards things that used to make you feel good. It's just, you're there. I don't have severe depression anymore, but when I did it was so mixed with anxiety it was often hard to tell the difference between the two. But most of what I felt was like a strong feeling of claustrophobia and this super severe panic. I needed to do anything to escape, but I felt so dead. Apathetic. And frozen by panic I couldn't. It's some seriously dark stuff and my heart goes out to anyone who has to deal with it. Not many people comment on this, but the severe lack of hygiene you experience because you can't even get out of bed. I gave myself gingivitis because I couldn't even brush my teeth. And when I showered I would sit down for a while but not actually want to move my arms to wash my body with soap. I wouldn't know or care what the time was. Nights turn into days, turn into nights, and you're just letting the things around you pile up until you realize you're literally living in your own filth. I was known as a very outgoing person, but nobody had seen me in months. Was hard to get back into a routine, but I did it. Still have low moments, but not that low. My dentist is very proud of me too. It's different to everyone. So it's going to be a different definition. To me, it feels like I'm trapped in a box. With no escape, and I don't have emotions either. And it feels like the only way to get out of that box is to commit suicide. When you do have emotions, it's usually the ones that can trigger suicidal thoughts and make you think that there is no way to get out. But there is. For me it feels like the world is one big regret sequence. Like in media where a character goes to an alternate reality where they were never born and everyone is better off. I start seeing examples of it everywhere. Big ways and little ways that the people I care about would be happier. I don't feel sad about it. I don't feel anything other than acceptance that I'm an inconvenience. A speed bump. And nothing more. Then the intrusive thoughts come. Like there's a weight on you. Your mind races regretting the past. Fearing the future. The present sometimes feels too much. Sometimes it all gets too much and you shut off and feel nothing. No interest in hobbies. In yourself, both extremes are bad. Not caring enough to commit suicide and kind of just live as a shell. Not even living for other people. But living because dying is too much of a task. It feels like you were thrown into the ocean with the weight of your mistakes shackled to your ankle. And you fall to the bottom of the ocean so far that you can't see the sun anymore. Just empty and cold. Combined with anxiety and all the rest that goes with depression. It felt like a big lump in my brain. This big useless unmoving thing that go in the way of everything. It affected how I learned. It felt like I couldn't manipulate things in my head because there wasn't enough room to move things around. I couldn't connect concepts because it was in the way. I affected how I perceived the world. Everything came through this muddy prism that distorted reality. Imagine living in a small studio apartment with a massive lump of concrete in the middle of it. I couldn't rearrange the furniture because there was only one place they would fit now. I could try new things because I couldn't fit them in. Things just got messier and the lump got bigger. Edit. If anyone is reading this and identifies with it. Things get better. They did for me. After a lot of work and a lot of failed attempts. My inbox is always open. An enormously heavy black cloak laying on top of you. Each breath is hard to draw in because of the cloak. The cloak is as enormous as a building, so it seems like there isn't any way to move out from under it. You can't find the beginning or the end of the cloak, and you can't expend the energy to really look because you are just trying to take that next labored breath.